and welcome to National Herald. I'm Rukmini Sen, and we are going to speak today with my former colleague and friend, Shishir Joshi. Shishir Joshi has recently been awarded with some 9 awards. His organization, Project Mumbai, has been awarded with 9 awards. And these are not just any popular award. He's also received United Nations SDG Action Solidarity Award in 2020. What are all these awards about, and what is Shishir actually doing? Let's speak to Shishir. Welcome, Shishir. Welcome to National Herald.
Thank you so much, and wonderful having you on the other side once again.
What are these awards for? I mean, I know that when I see the social networking sites and the media otherwise, I keep seeing your face, and everyone seems to be very proud of you for the work you're doing. But let me hear it from the horse's mouth. What are you up to?
Let me put it this way: proud of the work that we've done. It's not, I'm sure, not me, and proud of the work that people of the city have done, um, and the way they've collaborated with Project Mumbai. That's the organization which I represent, which I founded a little over 2 years ago. And what we've managed to achieve is to reach out to people, be of help, collaborate, work with them, and work with anybody who is willing to work or convince others who are not willing to work, and make it a very collaborative support system, uh, and opportunity, uh, and kind of a excitement in doing whatever we can do. As we at Project Mumbai like to say, Mumbai ke liye kuch bhi karega. And when we say Mumbai ke liye kuch bhi karega, then kya karega is, then we say here are the options. And everybody who's been associated with us, um, I would assume, has enjoyed their this opportunity, and we've enjoyed working with people.
So, Shishir, in 2020, when most people were kind of locking themselves up inside their homes, people were feeling restless, helpless, you decided to take this initiative, right? To as a citizen, I would say you decided to kind of step out and also step up in your game. Tell us broadly, because it's important for all of us as citizens also to know what can a citizen do in moments of such huge crisis. It was, and this is something which was unprecedented, and none of us could predict anything. What actually came to your mind? Tell me the process that you actually went through to decide that this is what I can do and this is how I will move ahead with working on COVID.
So, Rukmini, I'll take a step beyond and before 2020, put it that way. The way Project Mumbai as an organization, or me as a person, or all those who've been associated with us, is that everywhere that help is needed, we are happy to help. That's where we started off. It's a model of public-private people partnership to begin with. So people remain our purpose, and positive change the intended outcome. So even before that, in 2018 October, that Project Mumbai started off. Uh, Something as simple as a navigation system in municipal hospitals. When we went to the hospital, we realized that it's so much of a chaos, and people walking around asking for directions, so stressed out. They come to a hospital, but natural that they are worried. And then when you end up asking for directions also and can't find a place, it's naturally troublesome. And when we spoke to doctors to say, can't we have something much more simpler for people to move around? They said, we are doctors. Should we be giving treatment, or should we be creating navigating systems? And that's when Project Mumbai said, let's do it. So it started off with something as simple as that, getting into mental health, uh, creating innovative solutions to something which was very, very simple. And what others would say, oh, it was that elementary, why didn't we think of it earlier, kind of thing. And when, so we were into environment, we were into healthcare, and nobody even knew what COVID was all about. And then when COVID happened, we didn't put COVID solutions to COVID. We looked at humane solutions. To put it very simply, when even before the lockdown began, when the cases started coming up early March, mid March, and we said, what are the first few things that people are getting impacted? We said there are people who are flying in from other parts of the world, and they were getting quarantined. And we said, if I were to be quarantined, what would happen to me? I would fall short of food, for instance. So we said, okay, let's help those who are locked inside. So we created grocery kits for home quarantine so that they are not compelled to step out, and that way infect others or even hurt themselves. Uh, just as this was happening, worries had started engulfing people to say, oh God, what's happening? So emotional well being was being affected. I have a fantastic team of the mental health volunteers and leaders. And we said, why don't we set up a helpline? But helpline is not about me setting it up. If I would say, Rukmini, would you help out? But natural, everybody has a good bone in them. And when you say, of course, I'd like happy to help out, which you have said in the past. So we just asked around, and so many hands went up one evening on a Sunday evening. We said, we are looking at volunteer trained counselors, medical professionals who'd like to help a mental health helpline. Within 3 hours, we had close to 80 or 90 experts logging in on our WhatsApp groups. We set up the first mental health helpline. This was even before the lockdown had begun. The lockdown had just started off. Senior citizens were getting affected, and we all have senior citizens in our family, extended family, in our neighborhood. And said, what will they do? Because the first few strains of the virus and the worries had started coming in. We said, let's help them out, and that's how began our free facility of providing groceries to senior citizens. And the moment the word spread, we never really did anything major in reaching out. The ideas were simple and interesting enough to say, before we knew, we started getting calls from Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore to say, my dad's living alone, can you help out? My parents are living alone, can you help out? We've heard about you. And and when they said we need help, we said, of course we'll help. And then when that happened, citizens of Mumbai started reaching out to say, we'd like to help as well. We've heard about Project Mumbai. And you won't believe it, and I'm sure you would also, that uh, we would get emails by the minute. I'm so and so living in this area. I'd like to help out. I'm so and so living in this area. So you started off by asking what made me step out. There were so many fantastic people who reached out to say, we would like to step out. So Project Mumbai is not about me. Project Mumbai is about all these people who got the courage to say, we'd like to help out. And we created this huge army of citizens, which was hyper local. If a need was there in Car East, it was not Car. For Car East, we had people. Car West, we had people. Santa Cruz East, we had people. Santa Cruz West, we had people. And none of these people, even now, 99% of them I have never met, but they're all connected on different groups to say, this is what we like to. All we had to do was say, there's this need required in this area. Uh, Five hands would go up to say, Main jaun? Can I go ahead? I'm happy to do that. And then so need was there, people were there, and then needs, the more deeper needs emerged, because when we provided a grocery kit to a senior citizen, he said, I no longer need a grocery kit because maids have stopped coming. I need cooked food because nobody's there to cook in our house now. They were so helpless. So we started looking around for dabba services, but till the time we could get a dabba service, because even people were learning to create opportunities, our volunteers said, we'll cook. So we had volunteers cooking and providing meals. Then there were networks which began, and I've loved sharing the story that there was one case somewhere in Kandivli. A young man wanted a critical health medicine, and it came on our group that Kandivli 35-year-old needs medicine for his dialysis, and the medicine was available only in Dadar, and that time the lockdown was severe. And one volunteer, a lady volunteer, Priya from Mahim, said, I'll pick it up from Dadar. And she drove down to Dadar, picked it up. The second volunteer from Khar said, I'll meet you somewhere in Khar and pick it up from you. The Khar guy picked it up and went to Andheri. The third volunteer picked it up from Andheri and dropped it at Kandivli to this person's place with a little few baskets of fruits as well. And that's what Mumbai is all about, and that's what Project Mumbai is all about. That we
So
represent
basically, what you're
people.
saying is that that Mumbai, anyways, has this spirit of working together, of coming out and kind of helping each other, and Project Mumbai basically harness that energy. and you channelize that energy in multiple ways. What about
I'm going to jump in here, Rukmini.
yeah?
That one of our growing passions is to build a campaign called Mumbai being the kindness capital of India. And it just speaks of what you also said just now. Yes, there are good people everywhere, but possibly there are more good people in Mumbai, and we managed to just harness them. Because just to give you an example, you go to any part of the country and you ask for directions. um, could be Lucknow, but you ask for directions and you may or may not get directions the way you want. But in Mumbai, when you ask for directions, people will go out of the way to say that's where the place is, and if they get it wrong, or if they don't know, they'll apologize and they'll ask somebody or call up someone to say, can you help these people and stuff like that. So the kindness element, and I'm not talking about kindness only in a crisis. Yes, Mumbai has seen enough crises or calamities that people have come together, but the peacetime kindness that a city needs, Mumbai has it. And Project Mumbai is building the kindness capital of India theme, um, as an initiative as well.
So not just the business capital of the country, but the kindness capital of the country. That's what you are aiming at.
Not just the business or entertainment, also, as they say.
Just to give an understanding of the scale of work that Project Mumbai has been doing in Bombay, tell us the number of volunteers you have, and was it easy to get volunteers? I mean, you just said that there were a lot of people volunteered and came out, but was it really that easy, or is it just your positivity which is kind of shining through it all? Did young people come out and say that, Shashi, we want to come out and do this? And what kind of volunteer work? I understand people on the phone, for instance, for counseling, for mental health support. You train them and they came out to help. But what about other places like uh, hospitals, for instance, or crematoriums, for instance? Did you see any kind of voluntary work there?
It's not easy to get volunteers, because I completely understand that there are challenges people may face, but there are people who are willing to step out, you know, um, and the city is huge. So our proposition was very simple: those who can, please do step out. I'm not going to stop them, but yes, please take care of yourself. Okay, but those who can't, I completely understand, and we completely understand. So that was part one. Um, Having said that, what kind of volunteers? So to give you three, four different examples of volunteering opportunities. In the peak of our of COVID, we had the plastic recyclathon, which is one of our very interesting projects. Again, where we get people to donate plastic, and volunteers travel with our trucks and pick up the plastic from a doorstep or a building pickup. And we had people volunteer to say, "I'd like to travel with the truck." Now, these are people like you and me who would do that, who would, of course, seek their family permission and would step out and wearing PPE kits, and they would do that. Now, picking up plastic is not a very honorable job if you look at it from that point. It's almost people would think of us as glorified ratiwalas. Happy to be called that as well, but we would do that. Or um, earlier in during the pandemic last year, when food was a crisis, Project Mumbai co-founded Khana Chahiye, which is a food movement. Okay, and there were so many people who volunteered to step out and distribute food. And distributing food, this went on for 6 months, and this went on not just in on the highways under flyovers, but later on it picked up on the national highways, at the train stations. And the number of people who not only helped out in distributing food, also got infected, also stayed back home, and also came back. So there are so many of them. Now, that's as far as challenges and people overcoming challenges. The second is age group. I have Subramaniam, who's in his 70s and who's volunteered for everything under the sun. And sometimes we have to say, please hold back. And we've got youngsters, teenagers. We've got a T Champ as a volunteering platform where teenagers are volunteering, and we know that they cannot step out for better reasons. That parents need to be fully aware, or parental guidance is required. We've said there are teenagers who've created crowdfunding. That's part of volunteering. Also, they've created, raised money for food, for menstrual hygiene, for whatnot. We've got them involved in teaching technology to senior citizens. So there are those. We created one of the largest public art initiatives called Salam Rakshak, on 41 railway stations of Bombay. That was physical painting and creating artwork. That was done by our volunteers, who are again people like you and me, who stepped out and painted Ghatkopar, Chembur, any station you name it in Bombay, and 41 stations of Mumbai have been painted by these volunteers. Subsequently, even when the pandemic peaked, even worse, wall art Satrangi that we started off is about 150 walls across Bombay. So there's not an area that volunteers have not raised their hands. For us, creating volunteering opportunities is not we need volunteers. It's to provide a menu of opportunities to say, do pick up which one you want to. Want to step out? Here are 10 things you can. You can clean a beach, you can paint a wall, you can paint a station, you can deliver food, you can cook a meal. Stay back at home, you can do a counseling, you can teach English, you can help somebody in some artwork, you can create a graphic design, you can build a crowdfunding platform, and so many things. You can do some writing work. There are students interning with us. That's again volunteering, creating project reports and stuff like that.
What were the challenges in second wave, and how is it different from the first wave, if I may ask?
So fundamentally, the first wave, as we spoke of very early, was caught all of us by surprise. Everything was new, so we didn't know what PPE kits were at that point, and so we were grappling with everything. The lockdown was severe, so food was a challenge. Our medical services was a huge concern. So, for instance, we got into food. That was not our area of understanding at all. But apart from meals that we provided to masses through the Khana Chahiye initiative, we also provided food to hospitals. 11 hospitals were getting their lunch and dinner through Project Mumbai over 6 months. So food was a challenge. Everything was a challenge in the first wave. Second wave was a learning at one point. People had realized that yes, it's frightening. Things could get affected. But this time the lockdown wasn't severe. Medical crisis was hard because oxygen was a huge challenge. So people were getting food. So I don't believe cooked meals was as much a challenge, but getting a bed was even harder. And that's where Project Mumbai focused on health infrastructure during the second wave, providing better infrastructure to hospitals. Getting a bed is the responsibility of the state or of the municipal corporation. That is not something that we would have wanted to help out. But can we increase the number of oxygen beds in a hospital? So what we did was we reached out to all hospitals across Mumbai through the head of the institution. We said, you tell us what your requirement is. We create the funding opportunity and ensure either ventilators or oxygen concentrators or BiPAPs, and all these machines are provided. Traditionally, in every hospital, 10% or less than that could be an ICU bed, and 90% are general ward beds. But now the need had turned. 90% needed ICU kind of support, and which none of the hospitals were equipped. That's where Project Mumbai got into space. That is the institutional support. Second was retail. Somebody like a Rukmini or a Shishir needed oxygen at home. What do I do? That's when the concentrators came into play. And we procured, purchased a few concentrators, and then later on we were fortunate we got donated in the hundreds concentrators. So we provided a free concentrator service to people. Um, Free for people below poverty line when we had limited numbers, and then a free for anybody who's COVID positive. Then we provided free returnable to 15 districts across Maharashtra through the civil hospitals, so that as many rural hospitals also do not suffer, or citizens in that area do not suffer.
How was your experience working with the government here, with state government?
You know, um, I find it very interesting because there are good people everywhere, starting from the kindness part of it. Um, I may deal with a department. I may want to have a kind of association with a department. I may not find somebody who may be willing to listen to us. So maybe in B department, I may have worked with somebody whom I have worked well with, and I would ask them to connect us to A, because naturally A may not have heard of us or may not know how we are. Because please do remember that the crisis that we are facing is also the same crisis at a possibly a much larger level that the bureaucrat is coping with also. Now he would be trying to deal with citizens. He would be trying to deal with organizations like ours and so many of them. So he would not know the credentials. Now it's only somebody who works with the organization will know, oh, they are good, work with them, because they have a limited time to choose. So in that sense, our trial and error has been very good. And more often than not, it's the government which reached out to us to say we need help. When we started the senior citizen helpline support system, the municipal corporation reached out to us to say, you are doing such a great work. Can we partner with you? When we had the mental health helpline, the state government partnered with us and launched our mental health for across Maharashtra. When we wanted a call center for the home quarantine, to the government which reached out to us. Recently, when we did a vaccination for the prisoners, inmates of some of the biggest, the Arthur Road prison, it was the municipal corporation which reached out to us to say, will you please help us in doing this? So when they see intentions, and when they see credentials, and when they see the likelihood of delivery, which is transparent, I think we were right there, and we've never shied away from that. So my experience has been very good. I've always had. It's just that I've we've kept our relationship safe enough to say never really seek monetary support from. Then they start dominating you on. For any initiative that we've worked with the municipal corporation or the state government, we've only asked them for their outreach, the scale. So if you're doing something, ensure that their machinery helps in reaching out the message to a larger number of people. Because for everything else, that we are there. I don't need the municipal support for food. It's people who've donated money, and there are so many good people around who've helped me procure good food. Delivery is through our citizen network. It's just that when we are doing it, we seek the help from the municipal corporation. Say, can you inform the wider number of people? Or when we have a mental health helpline, we ask the state government to say, can you spread the word that there is this helpline available and people can reach out, which people like you and me may have a very limited reach in that sense.
Did you ever feel deep despair? And because you were handling things, you were speaking to so many people, you're a field person. You've been seeing what has been happening on the ground. Uh, how did this personally affect you last year and this year?
um, one feels fortunate that we are in a position to say we have a roof. We can afford not to step out if we don't have to. So when you have that realization that we are privileged, and let's not take advantage of this privilege, then it was easy for me to look at things. I did not let these things get to me. Um, I guess one has been working for a long time and enough crisis situations to overcome this and not get it got get it deeper. Also, having conversations within family and outside sometimes helps to look at things. And it's a very good team within Project Mumbai that we have, or even the board that Project Mumbai has. They're more friendly nature of people, that if there's a crisis that happens, then we discuss it out, decisions that need to be made, we talk it out, and then a logical thought comes in and say, not this, let's do that. How can we prioritize things? So that's one part of it from a decision making. But yes, it has been tiring, but I don't think I've really uh, had a sleepless night over worry or over grief. But yes, this time it's also been that, or in the last year and a half, not that personally I've been not been impacted. Yes, I've lost not within the immediate family, but extended family. Yes, I've lost family members. I've lost very close friends. I've spent sleepless nights trying to get a bed for very close, for parents of very close friends, not being able to get medicine. That helplessness is there, and it does affect. And then when you look at, there are people who have far bigger worries than you have, then you realize that, I don't think it's time to sit back and mope on this. There is so much more that other people are going through. Somebody who's lost a job, somebody who's lost a family member, somebody whose both parents have gone. And I've known friends who lost both parents, who were fit and fine 1 week ago, and just gone, or uh, desperately seeking help, calling every minute for a medicine. I know of a family where the husband, wife, two children, and the mother, all of them were infected with the virus not so long back. Each one of them, so the husband and wife in hospital, in the same hospital, in different sections, the husband in the ICU, the children at home, and then the grandmother gets affected and grandmother moving into another hospital. So by the time the son is back home, the mom is already in hospital, and then the mom passes away. So there's been no final goodbyes. So that's so much more deeper than maybe the grief that I may have gone through. So I have seen it from that perspective rather than saying that, okay, I am going through a tough time. Other people are going through worse. And I think that's something which I've always shared with my colleagues also and others also. That I know I do understand what we go through, but for a moment, let's also understand what others could be going through. And this is that because I'm sure each one of us, I'm sure you've also seen enough friends around you or stories around you where it's affected us that I didn't know this happened and oh God. And there's nothing you can do in certain occasions. I know what one situation where a friend of mine and her mother needed a hospital bed, and it was in another city, and I must have made about 100 calls to different people to say, can we find some opportunity? It wasn't that we were trying to use any influence, but just finding because the system was not transparent enough for us to get a bed, or in another case where they actually made a provision in a corridor of a hospital to help out somebody who's now of course fine, but what the family must have gone through in those traumatic times, I think one can never imagine.
Thank you very much, Shishir. Thank you for your time, and stay healthy.